Every spring, millions of gardeners do exactly the same thing without even realizing it's a pattern. They go to the garden center, spend real money, fill their containers, and put in real effort. Then they watch every single one of those plants die over winter without exception every time. The following spring, they do it all over again. Same money, same effort, same disappointing result. That arrangement is extremely profitable for garden centers and extremely expensive for you personally. It's also completely unnecessary once you actually know which plants survive winter in a pot. There are tough, beautiful, proven perennials that come back stronger every single spring in containers. They even multiply into free plants while you're sitting on your porch doing absolutely nothing at all. You plant them once, and they reward you for decades instead of just one single disappointing season. That single shift in mindset is genuinely what separates frustrated gardeners from happy ones. Today we're covering 10 of them, so drop your US state or zone in the comments as we go through this. Your zone genuinely changes how each of these plants performs, so it's worth mentioning right away. Some of these plants stretch across nearly every zone in the country, while others need a bit of care. Either way, there's genuinely something on this list that works for wherever you're gardening. We'll call out specific hardiness zones for each plant as we go, so pay attention to your own. Let's get started with the plant that solves one of the most common container gardening frustrations. Plant 1 is hosta, and if you've got a shaded patio or dim doorstep that defeats every plant, listen up. That spot that's beaten every plant you've ever tried is exactly what hosta was built to handle. Hosta is hardy across USDA zones 3 through 9, one of the widest ranges of any shade perennial. That range covers the vast majority of the country, from cold northern states to the humid south. Wherever you're gardening in America, there's genuinely a hosta variety suited to your climate. Massive architectural leaves come in blue, green, gold, cream-edged, and striking two-tone varieties. Some varieties stay compact at just 6 inches wide, while others spread out to 4 feet across. The larger types easily become the centerpiece of an entire shaded container arrangement. They get more impressive every single year instead of fading or declining like most container plants do. Here's something most gardening content never really explains about growing hosta in containers. A container eliminates the two things that kill hostas in the ground: waterlogged soil and slug access. You control the moisture and the drainage, producing a healthier, more dramatic plant than ground planting. You're not settling for a lesser version of this plant. You're actually growing a genuinely better one. Every 3 to 4 years, divide the clump, and one hosta becomes 3 to 5 separate new plants. At $15 to $20 per plant at a nursery, that's $45 to $100 in free plants. That's real money back in your pocket from a single morning of work with a sharp garden spade. It's genuinely one of the best returns on time you'll find anywhere in perennial gardening. Tell us in the comments if you've got a shaded spot that's beaten every plant you've tried so far. Include your state too, since it genuinely helps shape what gets covered in future videos. Some of the most dramatic hosta displays come from spots people had actually given up on years ago. That's part of what makes this plant such a satisfying discovery for so many frustrated gardeners. Plant 2 is a stilbay, with feathery plumes of red, pink, white, and purple rising above fern-like foliage. In a large container, it genuinely looks like a piece of woodland garden you can place absolutely anywhere. Here's the counterintuitive fact most gardeners never hear: a stilbay performs better in a pot than the ground. In the ground, it depends entirely on whatever moisture the surrounding soil happens to hold that week. During a dry summer, ground-planted astilbe genuinely struggles, producing smaller and fewer blooms. In a container, you control exactly how much water it receives, producing bigger plumes and longer blooms. The container isn't a compromise for this plant at all. It's genuinely an upgrade over ground planting. Hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8, with bridal veil giving pure white plumes for shade containers. This range makes it a genuinely reliable choice for gardeners across most of the northern half of the country. Fanal delivers deep red flowers above dark bronze foliage, a striking combination for any porch display. Sprite offers compact shell pink blooms and remains one of the most award-winning astilbe varieties around. It's genuinely a favorite among gardeners working with smaller containers or tighter porch spaces. Divide every 3 to 4 years in early spring before shoots emerge, and each division blooms fully. That's $12 to $18 worth of free plants per division at current nursery prices today. You should genuinely never have to buy a stilbe twice once you're dividing your own established clump. It's the kind of plant that quietly turns a small investment into a lifetime supply for your porch. Place a few divisions around different containers, and you'll have coordinated color all summer. The plumes also make excellent additions to fresh cut arrangements if you want to bring them inside. That versatility is part of why so many experienced gardeners keep coming back to this plant. Plant 3 is lavender, which evolved on rocky Mediterranean hillsides with almost no soil nutrition. That harsh native environment is exactly why so much conventional gardening advice misses the mark on it. The conditions most gardeners think will kill it are actually exactly the conditions it was built for. Hardy in zones 5 through 8 for English lavender, with Hidcote the most cold-hardy variety available. Gardeners in colder zones can still grow it successfully by overwintering the container indoors. For the South and Gulf Coast, phenomenal handles heat and humidity across zones 6 through 9 best. If fragrance is your top priority, Grosso has the highest essential oil concentration of any variety. It blooms continuously from June through August, giving you months of steady fragrant color. Here's the counterintuitive fact that kills more lavender than any pest or disease combined every year. Moisture-retaining potting mix is genuinely lavender's primary killer in most American container gardens. Mix your standard potting soil with a third coarse perlite before planting and never fertilize it at all. The essential oil concentration behind both its fragrance and mosquito-repelling properties increases when hungry. Neglect isn't just acceptable with lavender, it's genuinely the correct technique to use with this plant. Cut back by a third after the first bloom flush, always into green growth, never into woody stems. It returns fuller and more fragrant every single time you apply that simple cutback technique correctly. Move the container right where you sit outside, since brushing past releases the scent instantly. That fragrance also naturally helps keep mosquitoes away from wherever you spend your evenings. Dried lavender flowers also work beautifully in sachets, homemade teas, and simple baking recipes. It's a plant that keeps giving well past the growing season if you save some of the blooms. Once you experience how little effort it takes, you'll wonder why you fussed over it before. Plant 4 is Coreopsis, blooming from early summer straight through the first frost without real pauses. That kind of non-stop performance is genuinely rare among perennials grown in containers. It does that reliably in poor soil, drought, and heat, in conditions other plants would abandon by July. Hardy across USDA zones 3 through 9, with moonbeam giving soft lemon-yellow flowers on tidy mounds. Zagreb is deeper golden yellow with threadleaf foliage that catches the light beautifully all season long. There are also newer pink and red-toned Coreopsis varieties if you want something beyond classic yellow. Both varieties are genuinely proven performers across a huge range of American growing zones and climates. Deadheading Coreopsis, even just running your fingers through it twice a week, doubles flower production. That's the entire management strategy. 2 minutes a week for maximum color across the whole season. It's honestly one of the best returns on effort you'll find anywhere in container gardening. No fertilizer, no complicated schedule, just a quick pass through the plant every few days. It also handles neglect during vacation weeks better than almost anything else on this list. Come back from a week away, and the plant is usually still cheerfully blooming without complaint. Pair it with something taller behind it, and it fills the front of a container arrangement beautifully. Bees and butterflies also visit it steadily throughout the entire blooming season. Plant 5 is Heuchera, offering more foliage color range than most flowering plants combined together. It's a plant that quietly does the visual heavy lifting without ever needing to actually flower. That color is present from the moment it breaks dormancy in spring until hard frost hits in fall. You're not waiting around for a bloom season here, you have color in your containers from day one. Hardy across zones 4 through 9, with Palace Purple giving deep burgundy leaves that look almost black. Lime Ricky is electric chartreuse, illuminating shady corners the way no other plant quite can manage. Caramel produces warm amber-orange tones that genuinely shift throughout the entire growing season. There's genuinely a Heuchera color for almost any design scheme you're trying to achieve on your porch. It looks noticeably different practically every month from April all the way through October. In zones 7 through 9, it stays evergreen, giving 12 full months of container color from one plant. At current prices, one Heuchera living a decade at $12 costs just over $1 a year to own. Every annual you buy instead costs you that same $12 again every single year without fail. That math genuinely isn't complicated once you actually sit down and look at it side by side. Over 10 years, that single plant purchase saves you well over $100 compared to annuals. It's one of those quiet, unglamorous savings that adds up more than people usually expect. It also pairs beautifully with almost any other container plant, since the foliage color works with everything. Use it as a filler around taller flowering perennials to add year-round texture and interest. Even a small collection of different Heuchera colors can look intentionally coordinated with zero design skill. Plant 6 is sedge, or carex, the plant professional landscape designers reach for constantly and reliably. It solves the specific problem of containers looking bare and forgotten during the off-season. It looks intentional and designed every single day of the year, including bare January when things go dormant. Hardy in zones 5 through 9 depending on variety, with Evergold giving vivid gold and green striped foliage. Bronze Bucklow has deep amber tones that intensify as fall temperatures gradually start to drop. Ice Dance has clean, white-edged green foliage that brightens up any dark container arrangement nicely. There are dozens of Carex varieties available, so it's worth exploring a few at your local nursery. It doesn't go dormant, doesn't die back, and never needs replacing, just growing fuller each passing season. Divide every 2 to 3 years in early spring, and each division becomes a completely free new plant. That's the entire maintenance requirement for a plant that earns its space all 365 days. Place it near your front door, and it becomes the one container that never looks abandoned. Even during a hard winter storm, it keeps that structured, intentional look everyone notices. It also handles both sun and shade reasonably well, giving you flexibility in where you place it. Mix a few varieties together, and you get a layered, textured display that changes subtly with the seasons. Professional designers love it precisely because it does the quiet, structural work other plants can't. Plant 7 is coneflower, echinacea, a native plant with medicinal history going back centuries. Its roots and flowers were used in traditional remedies long before it became a garden favorite. It blooms June through September and is ranked among the top 5 bird-feeding native plants in America. It's also completely indestructible in containers once it's fully established in your garden setup. Hardy across zones 3 through 9, with Magnus Purple giving larger flower heads than the wild species. Hot Paprika delivers double orange-red flowers, the most dramatic modern variety currently available. There are dozens of coneflower cultivars now, ranging from classic purple to bold tropical shades. Leave the seed heads standing through fall and winter, feeding goldfinches and chickadees actively. Your container becomes a genuine wildlife feeding station that costs nothing to maintain afterward at all. Every 3 to 4 years, divide the clump, and one plant becomes 8 to 10 brand new plants. At $12 to $15 per plant, that's $96 to $150 in free plants earned. That single division session alone can furnish an entire new set of containers on your porch. And every one of those new plants keeps feeding birds through winter without any extra effort. It's also remarkably tolerant of poor soil, drought, and general neglect once it gets established. Bees and butterflies visit it heavily through the summer, adding real wildlife activity to your porch. Few plants deliver this much ecological value for such a genuinely low amount of ongoing care. Plant 8 is Agapanthus, the true statement plant that makes visitors stop and ask what it is immediately. Very few container perennials command that much attention from people just walking by. Tall, elegant stems top spectacular globe-shaped clusters of tubular flowers in blue, violet, and white. In a large container, it becomes genuinely architectural, unlike almost anything else on this entire list. Hardy in zones 7 through 11 in the ground, and grown in containers in zones 5 and 6 instead. Overwintering the container in an unheated garage works well for gardeners in those colder zones. Here's the counterintuitive fact: most gardening content never mentions about this particular plant. Agapanthus actually prefers to be pot-bound, since crowded roots genuinely trigger more flower production. In the ground, plants spread freely and flower less, while restricted container roots work in your favor. Do not repot it until flowering actually declines, since a tight pot is genuinely the winning strategy here. That single piece of counterintuitive advice alone can transform how this plant performs for you. Most people assume a plant needs more room to thrive, but Agapanthus genuinely proves that wrong. Leave it in the same container for years and watch the bloom count climb higher each summer. It's a genuinely rare case where doing less work directly produces a noticeably better result. For gardeners who want a real conversation piece on their porch, this plant delivers every time. The strappy green foliage also looks tidy and attractive even during the weeks it isn't in bloom. Pair it with something trailing at the base and the whole arrangement looks professionally styled. Plant 9 is catmint, giving 6 months of lavender blue bloom while deer avoid it entirely on approach. That kind of season-long reliability is honestly rare among flowering perennials in general. Pollinators work it constantly from first bloom to last, and it returns fuller every single passing year. Nepeta x Faceni. Walker's Low is hardy across zones 4 through 8, forgiving and genuinely versatile. It's genuinely one of the most beginner-friendly perennials on this entire list to get started with. Cut it back by half after the first bloom flush, and 3 weeks later it returns with a full second wave. That's 2 complete bloom seasons from one plant in a single year at absolutely zero additional cost to you. Compared to petunias, catmint needs just 1 cut per season instead of constant deadheading and feeding. It comes back stronger every spring for years, unlike annuals that require full yearly replacement. The only real reason more people aren't growing it is that garden centers profit more from annuals instead. It's a genuinely honest observation once you compare the actual cost and effort side by side. Plant it along a walkway edge, and the soft mounding habit softens hard lines beautifully. Bees and butterflies visit it constantly, adding steady, visible wildlife activity to your porch all summer. Plant 10 is hellebore, saved for last because it does something none of the other 9 plants can do. Consider it the reward for making it through this whole list, since it truly is worth the wait. It blooms in January, February, and March, right through frost and snow in the darkest winter weeks. Hardy across zones 4 through 9, with ice and roses red giving deep burgundy flowers from December. Wedding Party has pure white double flowers blooming from January, all the way through April each year. Penny's Pink delivers soft pink with darker veining, one of the most elegant varieties available anywhere. Newer hellebore hybrids are also bred to hold their flowers facing outward instead of downward. A well-grown hellebore in a container can flower reliably for 20 years or more without any decline. The planting decision you make this season keeps rewarding you 2 full decades from right now. No other container plant on this entire list approaches that kind of long-term value at all, really. Plant it where you walk past every morning in late winter, since that's when its payoff matters most. That single placement decision determines how much daily joy this plant genuinely brings you. Even a single container of blooming hellebore can completely change how a gray winter morning feels. It's genuinely one of the most underappreciated plants in American container gardening today. Once you've grown it through one winter, it's hard to imagine a cold season porch without it. Here's the honest truth behind every single plant on this entire list that's worth remembering. The annual approach, buying, planting, losing, and replacing every year, genuinely isn't gardening at all. It's really a subscription service to your local garden center that you're paying into every single spring. These 10 perennials cancel that subscription permanently, coming back and multiplying for decades instead. Consider this list your permanent shopping guide for every future trip to the garden center. You plant once, and from that point forward, the garden genuinely starts working for you, not the other way. Think about how much you've spent on annuals over the past few years that simply didn't survive. That total probably covers several years' worth of these perennials at nursery prices already. The math genuinely favors switching over, even before you count the free plants from dividing them. If this helped you rethink your containers, go ahead and subscribe for more zone-specific gardening content. This channel puts out practical, experience-based advice built specifically around real American conditions. Drop your state or zone in the comments, along with which of these 10 you're adding this season. Every comment genuinely shapes what gets covered next, so we do read every single one you leave. Now go fill those containers, and this time, make it count for good instead of just one single season. See you in the very next one, and as always, happy planting out there this weekend.